Hello, everybody. Welcome to the XP Billionaires podcast. It is June, which means it is Pride Month. So this is our Pride Month special for 2021. I am Ray Thegrum, and I am joined by Sky Knight and the Mel Zerker. We are going to have a lot of fun today, just chatting about Pride stuff. So let's say hello to everybody. Sky, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Happy Pride, everybody.
Yes. Amazing. All excited. I know this is coming a little later on in the month, but regardless, it's been a great month so far. So we're hoping just to keep that going all the way through to the end of the month. So we're going to keep that going, and hopefully for even longer than that, even more important. It's not just about the 1 month. It's about all the time. All right, Mel, how are you doing today?
I'm not doing bad. I'm enjoying. I'm excited to talk about this one. There's some good questions in this one. They some of them stumped me for a little bit in a good way.
You know, they did the same for me too, and I have to very much thank Sky for doing the questions for this episode. They came up with some really good ones, really challenging ones. I had a lot of trouble with them myself, so a lot of these are just things I don't normally think of. But so I like being kind of put on the spot like that, even if I had time to prepare. So Sky, thank you again for doing this week's episode.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're going to get into the topic in just a second, but first, we do have an announcement to make. As of next week, we will be airing our final episode of the XP Billionaires. We're now just at a point where we've kind of moved in a lot of different directions in all of our lives, at least myself. I'm Sky. I know we were talking about it. And Mel, I feel like you've got a lot going on for yourself too. So I think at this point we will have done 124 episodes of this show, and we have gone for 2.5 years. I have not been more happy to have done this podcast with you guys. And you know, I'll save the silly speeches for next week when we record. But I just want you guys to know, our listeners, that next week will be our finale. We've got something really fun in store for you. Hopefully you'll stick around to listen for it. But we'll talk more about it next week when it comes out. But yeah. All right. Before I get too sappy, let's move on to this week's Pride topic, because that's what we're here for this week. That's the most important. And I'm sorry I had to sully such a great time with such bad news. So yeah, like in this particular episode, obviously we're celebrating Pride. Everything has been great, and normally with our Pride episodes that we've done over the last years, we've usually centered it around a specific theme. We're not really going to do that too much this week. I think it is still going to be focused more on characters rather than anything else. That seems to be kind of what we do. But in this case, the questions are fairly generalized. There's not a specific theme to go on. And yeah, there's really no other way to get into it other than to just get into it. So the first question that comes up that we have, so the Hays Code leads to queer coding tropes across movies, which translated eventually to TV and also video games. So the first question is, what are your favorite queer coded characters in RPGs and why? Now, Sky, before we actually start answering the questions, are you able to just give us a little bit more of detail on what the Hays Code is about?
Okay, was about, firstly.
Was about, sorry.
Yeah. Basically, it was a rule in Hollywood, basically, where you basically couldn't show queer characters explicitly in movies. That's the short version. And so that's where a lot of the queer stereotypes in film came about. They wanted to, where people wanted to have that type of person in the movie, but they couldn't, explicitly do so. So they gave them all these markers that would signal, hey, this person's gay, this person's trans, but not say so explicitly.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Though we've got that explanation out of the way, I wasn't fully aware of it myself, so I kind of got the idea, but wasn't sure if there was anything I had missed. But yeah, that seems pretty concise. So yeah, I guess that just means we can start answering the question now. And yeah, Mel, we're going to start with you today.
Oh God, so much pressure. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, so who's my favorite queer-coded character in RPGs? Again, took me a long time to decide, but I gotta go with my boy Dorian Pappas from Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't know what I can say about him. He's beautiful. He's perfect. I almost always play as a female character, so for me, I got to enjoy him as like my gay best friend. He's a huge flirt, so no matter what your gender is, he's flirting with you all the time. If you tell him like, hey, you're kind of leading me on, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll stop doing that if you want, but like I really like flirting with you. So you get this kind of playful flirting relationship where you just have fun together. He asks you about boys, and it's all around just a great relationship. He's brilliant and he knows it, and he really feels like the kind of person you would meet, because he's kind of an ass sometimes. And the thing that I think that sets him above and that really surprised me in the game is that it actually acknowledges some of the issues faced by queer characters or queer people. You find out at one point that, Dorian is estranged with his father, and the reason is that his father tried to use blood magic to make him straight. And unsurprisingly, he is hurt and angry and a great many things about it. And the fact that the game lets you watch that moment and talk to him about it, I think is pretty powerful. So he's my choice. I love him so much. I want to give him hugs all day.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I really have to get to Inquisition at some point, but so many games, so little time.
I know, and it's not one that a lot of people loved. I loved it, but I'm a sucker for Dragon Age in general. I mean, especially how much callback they have to earlier games and things like that.
No, fair enough. All right, Sky, how about we get an answer from you?
So, yeah, I'm going to talk about Shadow Hearts because, yeah, it's Keith Valentine. I love him so much. So, he's the vampire companion in the original Shadow Hearts, and really the only Valentine I like. He's very, very flamboyant. Like, you don't see him in a lot of cutscenes or anything because, well, one, the game doesn't really have real cutscenes for the most part, but you do get the impression he's very flamboyant, and he dresses very flamboyant, like purple suit. Come on. And he's very similar to a Suikoden narcissist, for those who know my favorite series. And, you meet him, and he's clearly a nobleman of some kind, though they never go into it. I mean, he's got a big castle and he dresses all fancy, so, What I like about him in particular, though, despite the fact that he is heavily queer-coded, they don't overdo it. And maybe part of that is the fact that he is introduced really late. And he is, in fact, the last playable character you get. And so he doesn't have a huge influence on the plot. But he's also really cool. His battle actions aren't super flamboyant. And he has this really cool warping move that he does when he attacks. And he's ridiculously powerful. Like, he's no joke of a character at all. Well worth taking to the end, and I always do because I am so weak for Keith. And oh, he's special. And he does the closest thing that you will see in battle to his sort of flamboyant nature is the fact that when he uses his vampire abilities, he like waves his sword and sheath around and sort of hums. Like, the guy's awesome.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to see. Yeah, no, and you're right. Like, there's just an air about him that they just did not want to fully admit. Instead, they go with the stereotypical abusive queer person in the acupuncturist, or I think that was it in Shadow Hearts.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah,
Yeah, I've talked about that guy before, and I think I have talked about Keith before, but not in this context. But
yeah.
yeah, as I would much, if we're gonna point to a queer character in Shadow Hearts, like let it be Keith, not the fucking acupuncturist who was awful. Um, and Keith at least is a playable character, and you know is just awesome, right? Like, had they kept the Valentine family more in his vein, it would have been great.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. All right, so we'll go on to mine next. Now, I have mentioned in the past that I am not overly fond of this particular character. However, the way he is queer coded actually is very subtle and I guess in its own way fairly well done. So I have to at least give credit for that. And that is Pyros from the Dot Hack series. So right off the bat, like there's some very, very subtle hints, right? Even in the first set of games where he refers to Kite and even Haseo later on, although he doesn't do it as often, refers to them as he of fair eyes. So I think to the term like fair maiden and things like that and ye old speak, where that he's giving those terms to well supposedly male avatars, well people, but the avatars are definitely male presenting. So, but it gets more and more suspicious or more noticeable that something might be different about Pyrrhos's, sexuality, especially after he's had a few. So the reason we say that is because in the Dot Hack GU games, when Haseo wins an arena tournament, you get this victory celebration. You get to go around and talk to everyone. Pyrrhos gets a little drunk IRL, but his avatar starts trying to glomp you or giving you this big old kiss. So, like, is a little suggestive. It's hard to know if it's just the alcohol talking or if the alcohol is really bringing out his true self. Maybe, like, we don't know. There's no way to be 100% certain. But at the same time, it's not official that he's at least a romance option for you because you can't choose Pyros as a wedding candidate at the end of GU. So, unlike Endurance, who will absolutely wear the gown. So,
Yes, and it's adorable.
yeah. All right. So let us move on to the next question. So this is an interesting one, and again, I had trouble with this one myself, and we'll get to that. But what game is the most painful example to you of a game without a canonically queer character? So Mel, we're gonna come back around to you. So
Yeah. Again, a hard one for me to pick. I had to go back into some games that I played back when I was in high school because I do try to play games now that have an LGBT presence, and if they don't, it's sort of a red flag to me. So yeah, this is one of the last games I remember being frustrated that there wasn't a relationship in it that I wanted, and that is Star Ocean: The Last Hope. And I loved this game when it came out. My best friend recommended it, and I was hooked on it. And I loved FaZe, who's kind of like your sexy space elf guy who's kind of nerdy, and you and the main character and Phase just have so much chemistry, and it's the kind of game where they just keep being like, oh, you're like a brother to me, and like he's definitely into this girl, even though him and the girl have no chemistry. And it's just their relationship is so good, and I just want more of it. And at the time, I really wanted more of it. And kind of without spoiling too much of the ending, it only gets more intense of a relationship as he's kind of tempted to the dark side. Like it's so good, and it's just begging, just begging for some acknowledgement that there's some feelings here.
Yeah, I hate those moments. Like it's just
Right.
it's like it's such a taunt, you know?
And partly it's that I have this hatred of when they always stick you with this one female character who's usually annoying as crap, and they're like, yep, she's your partner, like she's the one you love, and I'm like, really, of all of these people, she's the one, huh? Yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah, and it's even not it's usually not even like the best female character. Like I know that's subjective, but it's usually someone who's just like you're like, really?
Yeah,
No.
it's usually like your childhood friend who's just there since the beginning, and it's just like you've been through so much by the end of the story. That's like, why does that have to be the only thing that matters?
It's a lazy writing trope, I think.
Yeah, I was started thinking about this too, that like a lot of games have this thing where like if you're in a relationship with somebody, that's it. Like there's no breakup, there's no deciding you have feelings for someone else. Like usually once you've committed, you're committed. Um, and I can only think of like series games where that's not true. Like in Mass Effect, that's not true through the whole series. But yeah, a lot of games, like once you've picked your person or once they've suggested you're interested in someone, like that's it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a one shot movie or a one shot storybook, anything like that. The relationship is there. You live happily ever after, but then they want to do a sequel, and you get if they do, you get to ask, well, did they? Did they really? Like, it feels like in some cases you kind of write yourself into a wall when you do that. It makes it a lot harder for you to, you know, to continue that story if you're really kind of doing that as a one shot scenario. I'm having trouble getting my words across here, but I hope you guys get what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So Sky, where's your painful example? What is it?
Can't be anything but Persona 5 for me. I mean, this one's obvious, but I mean, use case. So, as much as I find him like really unlikable, should have been gay, and that's the bare minimum they should have done. Particularly after the queer baiting clusterfuck that was Persona 4. You can revisit our very old at this point queer baiting episode for more on that. But this game really needed queer representation after Persona 4, and it was like the one thing they failed on. Because Persona 5 is so great, except for this.
Now, I pose this one thought to you in regards to Yusuke.
Yes.
Could he have been Ace?
Possibly.
Like, that's kind of what I got from him. Like, he was, he didn't care about anything but his art. Like, he was willing to do, as an artist, he was willing to do like a nude painting of Anne, and took absolutely no type of romantic or sexual interest. Even the bonds that you create with the protagonist too don't really suggest any type of relationship. So that's kind of one of the things I got. He put himself into these situations that seem like something couples would do, but didn't really seem phased by it or anything like that. So that just that's kind of what I was getting out of Yusuke. And again, like nothing is confirmed, nothing is official, but that was my interpretation.
And that's fair. I think maybe why my brain went to gay for him was because he reminded me of Jun from Persona 2, except a less likable version of Jun.
No, and that's completely fine. And like
yeah,
because there's nothing official, there's
great argument. Yes.
Yeah, like there's nothing, it's all open to interpretation because there is nothing official. So each interpretation is going to be different. So I like this, like, because it gives us a good discussion point, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And really, like, either way, he should have been a queer character.
Oh, hands down. Like one,
Yeah.
the other, whatever someone else might have seen, like it doesn't like it's yeah, there's definitely something that was missing in Persona 5, and I think your Yusuke was the key to it. You're absolutely right there at the very least.
Yeah. I would have really liked the protagonist to be bisexual too. Like,
Yeah.
mad bi energy from
Right? So
him.
much
Yeah.
bi energy.
Like, oh my god. Like, you might
Yeah.
not know if what we're talking about if you don't spend a lot of time with bisexual people, but it's not really definable. But oh my god.
It's yeah.
And I
Yeah.
say that as a bisexual person, okay? Like, it just
I I am I'm around plenty of bisexual people, and I don't understand what you're saying, so that's okay.
To quote one of my youth coworkers who recently found out, well, who knew, was said, "What part of this human suggests straightness?" And I would forward that. There's no specific thing, just some part of this human is not straight.
he is something else. Like, he's just got such mad swagger too, right? So yeah, it's such a shame that there wasn't at least one male romance option, because that would have been, bloody brilliant. And I could understand if they only wanted to put one in because homosexuality is still a really complicated thing in Japan. But to have none, and particularly since, like, the series as a whole does have one canonically gay character in it. The aforementioned Jun from Persona 2.
Yeah, but let's also point out that they had already pushed the envelope with that game by putting Hitler in it. So
I know.
it's like at that point, it's like, okay, we've already pushed the envelope. Let's just do this too.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah,
Persona
pretty
6, I'm
much.
talking to you.
Yes.
You heard
please.
us, Atlas.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to my painful choice. And again, like I was saying, like I had a whole lot of trouble coming up with, well, I think answers to most of these questions, to be honest. But this one surprised me because I hadn't been thinking about this series in a long time. But Final Fantasy 13, like this game really, really heavily implies that there's more than a sisterly familial relationship between Fang and Vanille. And I did some research on it when I thought, oh, maybe this would be a good choice. And there was never a confirmed relationship. I did confirm that they weren't part of the same family, just the same clan. It wasn't actually a blood relation, so at the very least, like, it doesn't cross that line. But I also read a couple of articles that originally said that Fang was intended to originally be male, and if that had been the case, I think there would have actually been a proper relationship here. But no, they went a different route and then probably had to do a little bit of downsizing. So I don't know, Square, you're dropping the ball, and like you give us this, you give us Final Fantasy 15, which is basically like implied Brokeback Mountain. So like in a car, I don't know, like
What? What even is this episode?
I don't know.
We've had a
I don't
couple
know.
weird ones in a row. I don't know what's wrong with us. There's an energy.
But
There's a chaotic bi energy in the room.
Apparently, but yeah, like at this point, I feel like all bets are off. But yeah, this is just like Square Enix needs to get its shit together. Like that's all.
Yeah, understatement of the year. But no one's surprised to hear that from me.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, before I make any more like absolutely ridiculous comments, let's move on to our final question for the day. If there was any one RPG character you could make canonically queer, who would it be? Mel.
Okay, I want to start by saying that question was hard because you both took my answers. So I was like, who would it be? It's definitely this person or this person. And I look and I'm like, God. Well, I guess I'm going to have to think of someone else, aren't I?
You know what? Maybe do your stuff sooner.
There you go. This is why you can't put things off. You end up getting stuck with Claude from Three Houses. I'm kidding. Claude still is one of those characters. There's actually quite a few characters in Three Houses that I think should probably be gay or bi. Claude, I was just shocked. I ship him in a straight relationship, but like he should still be bi or pan or something. Just like he is very flirtatious, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like with Dorian, I mentioned earlier, right? It doesn't actually mean you're interested in a relationship necessarily. But the game, and honestly, Fire Emblem as a whole, has just always failed on giving you good gay options. As far as kind of like the main cast and people who actually matter, you only have one gay option. And then there's three if you're going to include the DLC and then like extra characters who aren't really in your, day-to-day life. It's just odd. It's just like, I mean, there's still only 5 options for lesbian relationships, but still, it's really, really obvious that like there's kind of only one option, and like, really, is he an option? So Claude, come on, you're upside down on the case. You're clearly not straight.
Awesome. All right. Sky, what is yours / Mel's other choice?
It can be no other than Naoto Shirogane from Persona 4. And I've spoken about how much her handling infuriates me before. But there's no other possible answer I can give to this question. And I know I wrote the question, but still, like, she either should have been a trans man or non-binary. Like, they dangle the possibility of it so strongly at the beginning of the game, and then you go through her social link and you're all so excited, and then they pull it away from you. Oh, it's only because she's in a male-dominated career. Fucking hell, Atlas. Like, no.
Yep. I have nothing else to say here because you've either said it here, you've said it before, you're probably going to say it again to somebody. But yeah,
you better.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry, and I did not realize until just this moment how much this still infuriates me. And well, I should have, because every time someone brings up Persona 4, I wince.
Oh,
I wince.
and it's
you know
such a
what?
shame.
It is, because other than the queer baiting, it's a fun game. it's a good, fun game. But when you're queer yourself, these issues just stare in your face, and you're just like, I would have rather they had not hinted at all. Because then at least it would just be the status quo.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's like I don't even really identify myself in any, queer fashion, but even I know that was handled wrong.
Yeah, it was insulting. And not only that, it was insulting and in a way that wasn't immediately apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. They basically let it drag, and I think that was the worst part of the whole thing.
Yeah, they let you get emotionally invested in the character, and then they rip it out they rip it out from under you, and you're just like, no. Particularly in Golden, where she's actually like a much more playable character than she was in the original.
Yeah.
So like I enjoyed having her in my party. I was enjoying her as a person, as a social link, until you get to the end and it's just like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a damn shame. All right. So for my choice, which again also Mel's choice, because we're horrible people like that. That's just the way it is. I have chosen Garrus Vicarian. If Garrus starred in his own sitcom, it would be called Everybody Loves Garrus. I cannot think of a person who doesn't like Garrus. And if you're out there, I don't know if we can be friends. So maybe just don't try. That's all I have to say about that.
Who would hate Garrus?
No one can hate Garrus. You love him because he's a straight-laced bureaucrat who gets the job done. You love him because he's Batman, or you love him because he's your best friend who snipers things and saves your ass. You can't hate him. He's there for everyone.
Yeah. Or you like him because his voice is liquid sex.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
With that one bit, there's the DLC with at the end of the game, and he's just like people seeing Shepard dance, and he's like, people who see that, they're gonna run away, like drop dead, or fall in love. Those are your three options with Garrus too.
That's so amazing. Like they're so perfect for one another. Like it's gonna be, if I ever actually get through that series, like despite the fact I've already seen it because I've watched Rafe play, like there's no way I'd pick anyone but Garrus. Like I couldn't do that to myself.
And that's the other point. Like there really aren't that many decent romanceable options throughout the entire series.
Whoa. I know no one loves my milquetoast Caden, but you know what? I still love him. The one thing I love about Caden is if you were dating him and then he kind of blew you off in the second game and you start dating Garrus, when you beat him again, he's like, so are you with Garrus? And you're like, yep. And he's like, yeah, I get it. Like other people will argue with you and they'll be like, what, you're dating Tally? I thought you were with me. Like other people will fight you. He's just like, yeah, Garrus is pretty great. I'd be with Garrus too.
I mean, who knows?
Well, that's the point. Like Garrus can only be romanced by FemShep, and that is what needs to change. So yeah, I don't think there's much more that needs to be said about this, and I don't think it's very very easy for anyone to argue against it. So yeah, Garrus, make him bi. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, he's a Turian. He is not attractive. However, no one cares because he's so nice.
He's got backwards knees and he's like incompatible with you. You can't eat the same food. It doesn't matter.
It does not matter. Like, as soon as you hear his voice, like, you're done.
Is that how it is? Should I be playing recordings of Garrus during our intimate times?
Obviously. I had a friend who, I was staying over at her house one night and she had her phone plugged in, and whenever her phone was fully charged, she just had the soundbite of Alistair from Dragon Age 1 going, "Make us breath, but you're beautiful." And I've always wanted to do something like that. Just take a snippet of Garrus. So every time your phone is fully charged, just gently in the night, you're just like, ah.
Okay, well,
I'm
I
glad
think
I've
we've had a
ruined
little
you.
bit.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we have had a little more fun than we had initially planned. But I think we're going to wrap it up here for our Pride episode. Also for our penultimate episode, which, you know what, at this point, like, all bets are off now, right? Like, let's just be crazy
Oh man,
than we ever have been, you
I'm
know?
gonna spoil everything. I'm gonna ruin everyone. I'm coming for you, every developer ever.
Absolutely. But all right, yeah. So that is going to be it for our episode this week. So, what do you guys think? Is there anything we got right, wrong, want to debate? What are your thoughts on everything we talked about? What are some of your favorites or choices for any of the questions in this category? So let us know. You can do that. Honestly, just do that to our social media. You can find me on Twitter at BillionairesXP or Rafe Egram at Instagram. Sky, where can they find you?
I'm at Skynight XP on Twitter.
Yep. And Mel, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Feminist Gamer, or you can check me out on Twitch, where I'm on D4 Adventures, and on Wednesdays we play a delightful game of what is now Genesis, and then you can watch me struggle with Genesis dice.
And definitely check out our website, xpbillionaires.ca, for all the written work that we've done, including quickfire reviews and some articles that are out there. So definitely check those out. Xpbillionaires.ca, check it out. So that is going to be it for us for our Pride 2021 episode. Happy Pride. And to all the LGBTQ plus people in the world, we love you, whether you keep gaming or not. Doesn't matter. So we'll see you next week for our final episode. See you guys.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye bye.